As a pastor, television preacher, and businessman, I've spent most of my life in front of cameras, sharing messages of hope, encouragement, and God's goodness. I've had the privilege of connecting with countless people from all walks of life, trying to uplift spirits and inspire faith. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I experienced that Tuesday morning in downtown Los Angeles when I decided to walk into a bank disguised as a homeless man. Now, before you start thinking this was some kind of publicity stunt or part of a documentary, let me set the record straight, dude. This was personal. This was about understanding something that had been stirring in my heart for months, maybe years. See, I've always considered it my calling to see people, truly see them, beyond their circumstances. That's what pastoring does to you. It makes you observe humanity, not just what people say, but how they live, how they're treated, especially when they think nobody important is looking. I was having lunch with an old friend of mine, a guy who runs a wonderful nonprofit helping folks get back on their feet after they've hit hard times. He told me story after story about how people treated the homeless, how they'd cross the street to avoid them, how they'd look right through them like they were ghosts, how they'd be refused service at restaurants and shops, sometimes even banks. Banks especially, he said. But how about Joel? He told me, you wouldn't believe how they treat people who don't look like they belong. It's like they're invisible, or worse, like they're criminals just for being down on their luck. That conversation stuck with me. I couldn't shake it. I've often spoken about empathy and compassion from the pulpit, about walking in someone else's shoes, but this was different. What's it really like? What do people really do when they think you're nobody, when they think you don't matter? So I decided to find out. Now, I'm 62 years old. I've got a face that's been on television screens, book covers, and stages for decades. You'd think it'd be impossible for me to go anywhere without being recognized, right? Well, here's the thing about recognition. It's based on context. People expect to see Joel Osteen at Lakewood Church, at a speaking engagement, maybe on a morning talk show. They don't expect to see him shuffling into a bank wearing clothes that haven't been washed in days, with a scraggly beard, dirty fingernails, and a shopping cart full of plastic bags. I spent 2 weeks growing out my beard, not grooming it, just letting it go wild and gray. I got clothes from a thrift store, wore them for days without washing them, rubbed dirt into them. I found an old shopping cart behind a supermarket. I even practiced the walk, that shuffle that comes from tired feet, from joints that ache, from carrying the weight of a world that stopped caring about you. I studied homeless folks on the street, not to mock them, but to understand them, to honor their reality by portraying it as truthfully as I could out of a spirit of genuine inquiry. The bank I chose was in downtown LA, a major branch of one of the biggest banks in America. I'm not going to name it because that's not the point of this story. The point isn't to shame one institution. It's to shine a light on how we treat people we think are beneath us, how we sometimes fail to see the divine spark in everyone. I got there around 10 in the morning, a Tuesday. I figured mid-morning, midweek would give me a good cross-section of people. I left my cart outside, knowing they wouldn't let me bring that in, and I shuffled through those doors with a crumpled plastic bag in my hand and a few coins jingling in my pocket. First thing I noticed was the cold air conditioning. After standing outside in the California heat, that blast of cold air hit me, and I understood immediately why homeless folks try to get into air-conditioned spaces. It's not just about comfort, it's about survival. But the second thing I noticed was the looks. The security guard by the door, a big guy, probably ex-military, his eyes locked onto me the second I walked in. Not a welcoming look, not a "how can I help you" look. It was a "what are you doing here" look. His hand didn't move to his belt or anything dramatic like that, but his whole body language changed. He straightened up. He started tracking my movements. I walked up to one of those information kiosks they have, trying to figure out where to go. There was a young woman there, well-dressed. Her name tag said Ashley or something like that. She was helping an older couple, explaining something about certificates of deposit. When she finished with them, she turned to the next person in line, a businessman in a suit, even though I'd been standing there first. "Excuse me," I said, my voice raspier than usual. I'd been working on that too. That voice that comes from years of hard living, maybe a lack of proper nourishment, maybe just exhaustion. "I need to cash a check." She barely looked at me. "You'll need to take a number and wait for a teller." "Where do I get a number?" She pointed vaguely toward a machine on the wall without making eye contact. The businessman got her full attention, her smile, her patience. I got a pointing finger. I shuffled over to the number machine, pulled a ticket. Number 7. The display said they were serving number 68. I found a seat in the waiting area. Plastic chairs, the kind that are deliberately uncomfortable so you won't stay too long. That's when I really started to see it. The looks. Oh, the looks. A woman in yoga pants and designer sunglasses actually moved her purse to her other side when she sat 2 chairs away from me. A man in a business suit stood rather than sit next to me, even though there were empty chairs and his number was 10 away from being called. I could see people noticing me, then looking away quickly, then glancing back to make sure I wasn't doing anything threatening. The security guard had positioned himself where he could watch me. Not obviously, he wasn't standing over me or anything, but I've been observant enough in my life to understand sightlines and positioning. He'd moved to a spot where he had a clear view of me at all times. I waited. 70, 71, 72. Each number that ticked by, I could feel the tension building. Not from me, from the people around me. There were whispers. A woman actually went up to the security guard and said something to him, glancing back at me. He nodded, said something that seemed to reassure her, but his hand was on his radio. Finally, my number was called. 73, I stood up, made my movement slow, deliberate, non-threatening, and walked to window 4. The teller was a young guy, maybe late 20s, slicked back hair, pressed shirt, a tie that probably cost more than the entire outfit I was wearing. "How can I help you?" he said, and I could hear it in his voice. That forced politeness that barely masked the discomfort, maybe even disgust. I reached into my plastic bag and pulled out a check. Now here's where I'd put some thought into this. It was a real check from my ministry for me, Joel Osteen, for $1,500. Small enough not to draw too much attention, large enough to be worth cashing. I pushed it across the counter with my dirty fingernails showing. Needed to cash this. He picked it up like it might be contaminated. Holding it by the corner, he looked at it, then at me, then at the check again. His eyebrows went up. "This check is made out to Joel Osteen." "That's me." He actually laughed. Not a friendly laugh, a dismissive, "You've got to be kidding me" laugh. "Sir, this check is for $1,500 and it's made out to Joel Osteen." "You're not Joel Osteen." "I am, sir." He was getting that tone now, that condescending tone people use when they think they're dealing with someone who's mentally ill or trying to pull a scam. Joel Osteen is a famous pastor and television preacher. You're trying to cash a check that doesn't belong to you. It does belong to me. I am Joel Osteen. By now we were starting to draw attention. The teller's voice had risen slightly, and in that echoey bank lobby, sound carries. People were turning to look. The security guard was moving closer. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step aside. This is check fraud, and I'm going to have to call the authorities." "Call whoever you need to call," I said, staying calm. "But that's my check, and I am a Joel Osteen." The security guard was there now, hand on my shoulder, not roughly, but firmly. "Sir, I think you need to come with me." A manager had appeared, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and an expensive suit. She looked at the check, looked at me, and I could see the wheels turning. She was trying to decide if I was delusional, dangerous, or running a con. "Sir," she said, "I'm the branch manager. This check is clearly not yours. Joel Osteen is a famous pastor and television preacher. And you're not Joel Osteen." The certainty in her voice was something else. Not just that she didn't believe me. She couldn't conceive of a universe where I might be telling the truth. Because Joel Osteen wouldn't be dressed like this. Joel Osteen wouldn't look like he was struggling. Joel Osteen wouldn't need to cash a check at a teller window. I started to reach for my wallet slowly because I could feel the security guard tense up. But before I could get it out of my pocket, I heard a small voice. "That's Joel Osteen." Everyone turned. There was a little girl, couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old, standing with her mother near the ATM machines. She was pointing at me with huge eyes, her mouth open in amazement. "Mommy, that's Joel Osteen from the TV church. Grandpa watches him." Her mother was trying to shush her, embarrassed. "Honey, no, that's not." But the little girl was insistent. She pulled away from her mother and walked right up to me, fearless in the way only children can be. "You are all Joel Osteen. I've seen you on TV at Grandpa's house. You're the one who preaches the good messages." She was talking about my Sunday services, I realized, what her grandfather had shown her. I looked down at this little girl, and despite everything, despite the suspicion, the contempt, the hands on my shoulders ready to escort me out. I smiled, a real smile. "Well, hello there," I said, dropping the raspy voice. "You're pretty smart. What's your name?" "Emma," she said. "Are you making a movie? Is this for a TV show?" By now, her mother had caught up, looking mortified. But she was looking at me more closely now, and I could see the recognition starting to dawn. Her eyes got wide. "Oh my God," she whispered. The bank manager moved closer, looking at me with new eyes. The security guard's hand fell away from my shoulder. The teller had gone pale. I reached into my jacket slowly, still mindful of the security guard, and pulled out my wallet, my real wallet. I extracted my driver's license and placed it on the counter. The teller picked it up with shaking hands. His face went from pale to red to pale again. "Oh my God," he echoed the woman. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Mr. Osteen. I thought..." The branch manager had gone from authoritative to horrified in about 3 seconds. "Mr. Osteen, I sincerely apologize. We didn't realize. Obviously, we should have..." I held up my hand. "Stop. Just stop. This is exactly what I came here to find out." The little girl, Emma, was beaming up at me. "I knew it was you. Nobody believed me, but I knew." I knelt down, my knees protesting a little, and looked at her eye to eye. "You know what, Emma? You've got something that a lot of adults lose as they get older. You look past the clothes and the dirt, and you saw the person underneath. You saw with your heart. That's a gift. Don't ever lose that." She nodded solemnly, like I just entrusted her with a great secret. Her mother was wiping away tears, apologizing over and over. I stood back up, addressing the growing crowd that had formed around us. By now, everyone in the bank had realized what was happening. Phones were coming out. I could see the calculations going on behind people's eyes. How do they spin this? How do they explain that they just tried to throw Joel Osteen, the count, pastor, television preacher, and businessman out of a bank? "I want to tell you all why I did this," I said, and my voice carried in that lobby. This was my moment, the reason I'd put myself through this experience. For the last hour, I've been treated like I'm invisible, like I'm dangerous, like I'm nothing. A woman moved her purse away from me. People refused to sit next to me. Your security guard followed my every move like I was about to rob the place. Your teller accused me of fraud before even checking my identification. Your manager was ready to have me arrested. I could see people looking uncomfortable, but I wasn't done. And here's the thing. Everything you did to me, you do to homeless people every single day. Every single day, human beings walk into places like this and get treated like they're not human, like there are problems to be solved or threats to be neutralized. You don't see people, you see stereotypes. You see dirt and worn clothes, and you make judgments about character, about worth, about whether someone deserves basic dignity and respect, the very dignity God bestows upon every one of us. The branch manager was crying now. "Mr. Osteen, I don't know what to say. We're so sorry." "Don't apologize to me," I said firmly. "I'm fine. I'll go home, take a shower, put on clean clothes, and by tomorrow morning, I'll be Joel Osteen, the pastor again." But there are people who don't have that option. They don't get to take off the costume. This is their life, and they get treated the way you just treated me every single day. At every bank, every store, every place they try to go. Every person is a child of God, deserving of compassion. I looked around at the faces, some ashamed, some defensive, some starting to understand. That little girl right there, I pointed to Emma, who was still holding her mother's hand. She saw me, not the clothes, not the dirt. She saw me. She's 8 years old, and she's got more wisdom and heart than most adults I've encountered today. She looked with her heart, not her prejudices. I picked up my check and my license from the counter. The teller was still frozen, unsure of what to do. "I'm not going to cash this check," I said. "I don't need to prove anything else, but I want you all to think about something. The next time someone who looks like I did today walks through those doors, remember this moment. Remember that you have no idea what someone's story is. You don't know if that's someone who lost their job and their home. You don't know if that's a veteran with PTSD who can't hold it together anymore. You don't know if that's someone with mental illness who needs help, not suspicion. You don't know if that's someone's father, someone's brother, someone's son, a beloved member of God's family." I could see I was getting through to some of them. Others were still processing, still dealing with their embarrassment at having tried to eject a well-known pastor and television preacher from their bank. "Every person who walks through those doors is someone," I continued. They're not their clothes or their smell or their circumstances. They're human beings created in God's image who deserve to be treated with basic respect, not special treatment, just basic human dignity, a kind word instead of suspicion, a genuine offer to help instead of a security guard's watchful eye. The security guard, to his credit, spoke up. "Mr. Osteen, I'm sorry, I was just doing my job." I looked at him, not unkindly. "I know you were, and that's part of the problem, isn't it? When doing your job means assuming the worst about people based on how they look. I'm not blaming you personally. You're following the training you received, the culture that's been created. But maybe it's time to rethink that culture and remember our shared humanity." I turned back to the branch manager. "I've been in the public eye long enough to know how these things work. This story is going to get out. Someone's already recording this on their phone. By tomorrow morning, it'll be everywhere. You can respond to this in one of two ways. You can do damage control, release a carefully worded statement, offer me some kind of compensation to keep quiet, or you can use this as a teaching moment. You can train your staff differently. You can create policies that ensure everyone gets treated with dignity, reflecting God's love and grace. You can turn this embarrassment into something meaningful." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "We will, Mr. Osteen. I promise you we will." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I've lived long enough to know that promises are easy and change is hard. I started to walk toward the door, and Emma ran up to me one more time. "Mr. Osteen, can I have your autograph?" I smiled at her. "You bet." I borrowed a pen from her mother and signed the back of one of the bank's deposit slips. "To Emma, who sees with her heart. Never lose that light. God bless you, Joel Osteen." She clutched it like it was made of gold. And honestly, that moment, that pure joy on her face, made the whole uncomfortable experience worth it. As I walked out of that bank back into the sunshine, I could feel the weight of what had just happened. Not just for me, but for what it represented. See, I'm privileged. I get to take off the costume. But millions of Americans don't. They wake up every day knowing they'll be judged, dismissed, feared, and rejected because of circumstances often beyond their control. I drove home. Yes, I had driven myself there, parked a few blocks away, and when I got home and looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The disguise had been that good. But more than that, I barely recognized the world I'd just experienced. It was like seeing America from an angle I'd never seen before. Despite all my years of ministering to this country and its people, I've preached about overcoming challenges and finding strength, about God's plan for everyone. But those were sermons. This was real life. And real life is messier, crueler, and more complicated than any message I've ever prepared. But it's also capable of more beauty and divine intervention. That little girl, Emma, she reminded me that we're not doomed to be prejudiced, hardened, and suspicious. We learn those things, which means we can unlearn them too, with God's help. I hope the people in that bank really do change their policies. I hope they train their staff to treat everyone with dignity as children of God. But more than that, I hope people hearing this story think about their own reactions to homeless folks, to anyone who looks different or downtrodden. Because here's what I learned. We're all just one tragedy away from being in those shoes. One medical emergency, one job loss, one series of bad breaks, and suddenly you're the person being judged for circumstances beyond your control. At the end of the day, this experience wasn't about me getting treated badly for an hour. It was about understanding what millions of people experience every single day. It was about using whatever platform I have to shine a light on something we'd rather not see and to call for compassion. It was about remembering that beneath every weathered face, every set of worn clothes, every person we'd rather not make eye contact with, there's a human being with a story, with dignity, with worth, precious in God's eyes. That little girl knew it instinctively. The rest of us need to remember it and live it out.